My grandfather had died, and my friend George Tarrant, who I've enjoyed more success with George than I have any other of my co-writers. But George came in and he said, we had this little character that we were writing songs from. We named him Rodney. And we had a little bio written on him and everything. And he said, and Rodney was kind of a redneck, much like myself. Mm-hmm. And he said, I've got a Rodney idea. And I said, what is it? He said, when I get where I'm going. I said, what does it mean? He said, well, things might be tough right now, baby, but don't give up on me, because when I get where I'm going, you'll be glad you stuck around, Mm-hmm. And when he said the title, the first thing that popped in my head, my grandfather just died, so I thought about heaven, and I worked on his concept for about 5 minutes, and finally I said, George, I don't know if you want to do this, but I just keep thinking about heaven, and you want to write a gospel song? And
yeah, when I get where I'm going, there'll be only happy tears. I will shed the sins and struggles I have carried all these years.
So we go in and we go to Fame Studios there, where I was familiar and it was close to their home. And we cut demos, and we spent, I think, about $600 or $700 on each song, which, as a frame of reference for the listeners, nowadays records probably cost, in the neighborhood of $15,000 per song.
And that's without the video.
Right.
Obviously.
That's just the recording of the song.
Right.
And we spent about $600. And they said, okay, we're going to take these and play them to labels. Well, a couple of months go by, they call me and say, hey, we got this little label that's interested in signing us and letting us make a record. What do you think? And I said, well, it sounds great to me. I mean, it's not like Sony or Warner Brothers is beating your door down. So they went with this little label, Lofton Creek, that was just getting started. And then they called back in another month. They want to put out I Loved Her First. And again, I'm thinking, let them put out anything they want. It's never going to get heard.
Sure.
And I thought, sure, that's great. When do we start making the record? Oh, no, they want to put out the demo like it is. I said, you got to be kidding me. A $600 demo? And they said, yeah, that's what they really like. And I said, again, thinking, well, nobody's going to hear it anyway. Fine, put it out. So they put it out, and the record went to number one.
Look at the two of you dancing that way.
Oh, let me tell you, I think that song is going to be, it is such a big hit that I wrote with Chris Young and Frank Myers. And once again, one of the funniest things, the story behind that song is when we were writing with Chris, and we wrote the day we wrote it and finished it on the work tape. And Chris loved it from the beginning. And I called him like 2 days later and was asking about something, and he says, he answered the phone. He goes, Anthony Smith, he says, as far as I'm concerned, there's 2 songs that has to be on my record, and this is one of them.
Tomorrow I'm gonna leave here.
The strange part is that it had been turned down in that interim. I mean, between when he heard it at the Bluebird and when he called a couple of years later and had been signed to Capitol. So in those years, that song was continually being pitched and was being passed on by the biggest and the best in town. And but I believed in the song. I thought that there was something there, and the reaction it got from the lay folk,
Sure.
I knew there was something there. Oddly enough, I was told on more than one occasion that nobody was going to record it because it didn't have a bridge. It's just a verse, chorus, and you're done. And so I tried to write a bridge, and it seemed so foreign to the song, having sung it for so many nights in its format. I finally had to just say that I don't think it's supposed to have one. And
did you ever try doing a bridge with a banjo in it?
I tell you what, at that time of my life, I would have tried anything, a bassoon or whatever.
Little ukulele?
Whatever you got.
Of course, they're all little ukuleles.
I could have missed the pain, but I'd have had to miss the dance.
My first top 20 hit or song was a song that Reba McEntire recorded, like maybe her second single. And I remember getting a check for that song.
Mm-hmm.
It's called I Can See Forever in Your Eyes. And, you know, I was making $75 a week, so I get this big check in the mail. So I went out and spent every penny of it. You know, bought televisions, bought a movie camera, everything some whacked out songwriter or musician would do. What do I have? I need this, I need this. And then I realized I hadn't paid my taxes, you know, and so I guess I better write another song. I was kind of thinking, and I started thinking about all this stuff I'd bought.
Right.
You know, I got a Nikon camera, I got a color TV, but, and that's kind of how the germ of that song came about.
Seems everything I buy these days has got a foreign name.
The thing that I've always thought was strange about that right and that it got cut was that I was saying things to Max in the right. I was saying, you know, it's kind of like you're driving down the road and you buy an ice cream and you see a cow and you swerve to the left. And I'm saying these things to him as if it's those defining moments. It's like, that's how loving you makes me feel. It's crazy and spontaneous. And he was singing it back to me instead of us using those as ideas and isms to get us to the real lines. He started singing them, and I was just blown away. I didn't mean for that to be what the lines were.
Right.
And there's a cow in the road, and you swerve to the left, and Fat skips, you know, and all of a sudden he sang it back, and we just went, are you kidding me? That's the song?
That's how your love makes me feel.
Tim, James, and I had been writing for a number of years together. He and I had both had major publishing deals right prior to that, and we were both dropped in the middle of 1999 from our contract. So Tim was painting houses about 3 days a week with a crew, and I was my savings were just disappearing, you know, every single month from my prior co-publishing deal with Curb, and I was just about to go to work for the United States Census in 2000 when we wrote that song. And Tim came to my house, and, as he always did, and we went up into my attic recording studio writing room, and he just simply said, I make a list of things to do every day, let's write a song about it. And the first line of the song just kind of spilled out, under an old brass paperweight, and or I think it was some kind of paperweight. I don't know whether it was an old brass one on the first pass, but the song, we wrote the song in, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours. It took us, and after we finished it, Tim said, so now that we've written this song, do you think you're going to change your lifestyle? And I said, no, man, I'm trying to make it in show business. I don't got time for that.
Under an old brass paperweight.
Well, I Swear was written 5 years before it got recorded, and went through 2 demos. Everybody in Nashville passed on I Swear. And I felt the first demo just wasn't what it should be. So we decided to do another demo on it. And then that was the demo that John Michael eventually heard, that I personally pitched to him 3 times.
I swear by the moon and the stars in the sky, I'll be there.
And when you compare that one's country success with John Michael Montgomery with its pop success with, I think that was All for One that did it, it's just one of the biggest songs ever.
I swear by the moon and the stars in the skies.
Now, how big a kick did you get out of that? Because it wasn't too long after it was a hit for John Michael Montgomery that All for One put it out, and then it became ridiculous.
It was a bit surreal. I mean,
right.
At first I thought someone was playing a joke on me or something, you know, because we were totally caught off guard. I mean, no one told us they were doing it. Rick Blackburn just called us over to Atlantic Records here in Nashville and sat us down and played it. So it was a total shock.
And I've always been a firm believer, and I think that I Swear is a good example of this, that a really, really good song, it's just a matter of how you produce it as to what genre it becomes a hit in.
You know, I Swear, I don't know how many versions there are. I mean, it's in different languages. There was a German disco version of it. I have a reggae version of it.
I see the questions in your eyes. I know what's weighing on your mind.
It was recorded in 2000, and Jody Messina's Burn CD came out, I believe, in August of 2000. Well, they put 3 singles out off of that CD before they put Bring on the Rain out as the 4th single. So our scheduled release date, and actually the actual release date for Bring on the Rain, was September 10th, 2001, and that was a Monday. And September 11th, of course, 2001, that's when the towers went down in New York City. And the first time I heard the song was 2 days later on a Thursday. And I had pulled up in my driveway, and we were flying American flag, and the song came on the radio, and it was interwoven with sound bites from Ground Zero, President Bush speaking, rescue workers, news feeds, all interwoven through the song as it played.
America today is on bended knee.
We have unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center.
My daughter called me. She said a plane just flew into the World Trade Center.
Another day has almost come and
all of a sudden it smashed right dead into the center of the World Trade Center.
Can't imagine what else could go wrong.
Oh, another one just hit.
That looks like a second plane.
Sometimes I'd like to hide away somewhere and lock
There's no words to describe what's going on out there.
A single battle lost, but no.
America was targeted for attack because we're the brightest beacon for freedom.
Tomorrow's another day.
An opportunity in the world.
And I'm thirsty anyway.
And no one will keep that light from shining.
That's a title that my wife and I were driving back down to Miami to visit some folks, and we went through my hometown of Tampa, and I just hollered at her and said, "Honey, write this down, every mile of memory." And she wrote the title down, and I kind of had a few snippets because I thought it would be fun to write the song kind of like you're looking out the window of a car, kind of sentence fragments, and not necessarily a complete sentence, which is generally the way we write. And I didn't really think they were going to buy into the little snippets, my co-writers, Dirks and Brett Beavers, and they said, "Well, we love that. This is fun." So we wrote that one. I'm pretty proud of it. I like it.
I was driving into work one day, and work is a publishing office, a writer's room in an office downtown. And I always like to have titles that when you look at them, they don't make any sense, and they make you want to hear the song to figure out what it is. A DJ on the radio was making some kind of joke about that. I don't even remember what it was, but one of them said, "Well, I try to think about Elvis as the younger guy in the leather suit and not the older guy. When I think about him, I try to think about Elvis as the good-looking guy." And I'm thinking, I try to think about Elvis. That would be a cool thing. If I saw that on a record, I'd want to hear what that was. And I went in and I wrote it as a song of basically like, the old sexual joke of guys having to think about baseball games. So I wrote that, and it was all a very guy song, all about footballs and hunting and this and that and red meat.
I try to think about Elvis, the homeless, Memphis in the afternoon. I try to think about home runs, handguns, the creature from the Black Lagoon. I try to think about red lights, prize fights, anything to get me through. I just can't concentrate. You're all I think about these
And then Patty Loveless wanted to record it, so I had to rewrite it all with high heels and sushi bars. And so I basically wrote the song twice.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot where I was. I try to think about Elvis, Memphis, Oprah in the afternoon.
We just got lucky, you know. We wrote a song, and it is a scary feeling thinking back on it at that moment. I didn't know I was writing my first number one, and I didn't know that I was writing the first number one for George, who would end up being this huge, you know. At the time, he was just a valid artist on MCA, someone I was interested in. I was interested in his career. A lot of eyes were on him, but he hadn't really become a big star yet. And so it's you just never know. You know, it's another lesson learned to be there for those opportunities, and it worked.
Nickels and dimes.
Martina was really a new artist. She had actually cut one song of mine on her previous album, but she hadn't really had a hit. And she was kind of a new, untested, untried artist who hadn't really had a lot of success at that point. Next thing I knew, she had recorded 2 of my songs on her next album, that one and My Baby Loves Me. And but like I said, she was a new and sort of untested artist. And I thought, well, how is this going to work? I mean, not only is this a risky song, but you know, for a brand new artist, it's not somebody like Reba who could sort of say, well, I'm doing it, you know. And the record came out, and My Baby Loves Me was the first single, and it was a big hit for her, which was great because it gave her, you know, a real boost. And Independence Day, I think, was down the line somewhere. I think it maybe was the 3rd or maybe even the 4th single from that record. And it was met with a lot of resistance, even from her own record label. But she, God bless her, she was so sure about that song and so determined and so gutsy, really. And, you know, she insisted on keeping it on the record, and they did ultimately release it as a single, and it even met some resistance with some radio stations. But, you know, it was one of those wonderful instances, really, when the people responded so strongly that even the radio stations that were resistant, ultimately, most of them played it.
And then it went on to win the CMA Song of the Year.
It did. It was an out-of-body experience, really.
And a lot of people, because it has had, the song has had such an impact over the years, a lot of people are under the mistaken impression that it was a huge number one smash, but it actually wasn't.
It squeaked into the top 10. But, you know, I think the thing that the lesson that I got from that is that the chart position, or at least, you know, having a number one record, which is, you know, kind of the goal that everybody wants, it really does not mean what you think it means. Because that song is still played every day on the radio. You know, I don't know how many years. What is it? 17 years?
It's a long time.
16 years. It's been a while, yeah. It's still played all the time on the radio, and it's stuck in people's, it somehow just for whatever reason, it captured people's imagination and became a part of their lives. And not every number one song does that. Some number one songs you forget as soon as they're gone, and some you don't. And I feel very lucky to have written something that seems to have some kind of staying power. That doesn't always happen.
Well, she seemed alright by dawn's early light, though she looked a little worried and weak.
Yep, Thinking About You, that was a big number one song. And again, you know, Trista's not on the radio much anymore, but at the time she was, you know, probably the top female vocalist. So all that was good, and I was starting to feel, you know, a little more confident about things. But believe it or not, even then, I was still working on the Opry on the weekends and still doing the occasional session. But I think I was starting to wind it down. People might get the wrong idea when they hear these interviews. It's like, well, I wrote this song and then somebody cut it, and I wrote this song and that was a hit. I would probably write anywhere from 75 to 100 songs a year, probably demo 60 songs a year. And if I had one hit a year or one hit every 2 years, then I was doing extremely well. It's good when it's a song that you really like, also is recorded by an artist for whom you have great respect.
Not quite sure what's going on, but all day through and all night long I've been thinking about you. I've been thinking about you.
I understand that when you get a single for Garth, they like automatically buy you a house, don't they?
Well, damn it, somebody didn't tell me that rule. I need to find out about that.
There's a whole subdivision now.
Yeah, I wish that would be true. I would live in Garthville, for sure.
And I will sail my vessel till the river runs dry, like a bird upon the wind. These waters are my sky. I'll never reach my destination if I never try. So I will sail my vessel till the river runs dry.
Rodney was running a little bit late coming to the writing appointment because his son was, the principal from the school called Rodney and said, your son is saying hell. He's singing a song, but it isn't saying if you're going through hell. And
he was singing his daddy's song.
Exactly. And it was, as innocent as it could be, but so he was a little late getting there. And when he got there, we got to talking about that and how little people are watching everything we do.
Mm-hmm. He said, I've been watching you, Dad, ain't that cool? I'm your buckaroo, I wanna be like you and eat all my food and grow as tall as you are. We got cowboy boots and camo pants, yeah, we're just alike, hey, ain't we, Dad? I wanna do everything you do, so I've been watching you.